Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes. Welcome to Everything Cooperative. This morning we're going to talk about Equal Exchange, which is a worker cooperative. They help people, small farmers, small farmer co-ops, and they help people in the Congo. We've had this for 2 weeks. This is our third week. And this week we're going to focus on how Equal Exchange works, the internal operations. And we have on the phone with us this morning Mr. L.J. Taylor. Good morning, Mr. L.J.
Good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for being on. Particularly, I know you have been ill, so I'm so glad that you have made it on this morning.
Yeah, I feel kind of lucky. We got through I got the initial rush of the flu, so when everybody else gets it, I'll be already done.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. And you're also the board chair.
Yes, I'm currently the board chair at Equal Exchange.
So what do you do at Equal Exchange?
So as I like to tell people, my daytime job is I work in food service sales. So we're coffee, tea, chocolate, all things fair trade. And I work with people who serve our product. So if you go in and buy a cup of coffee that is Equal Exchange, that just might be one of my customers. And that's my daytime job. And then as part of our governance, I'm a board member, a worker owner, and currently the chair of the board.
Okay, so you have a daytime job and a nighttime job.
Hey, that's why they call us worker owners. My worker job is the salesperson, and my owner job is taking care of our governance as being part of the board.
And so you get paid for your daytime job, but you don't get paid for your governance part.
Hey, we all get paid for our governance part. Part of what's great about being in a worker-owned cooperative is that the fruits of our labor, all the sweat that we put in all year long in keeping the organization going comes to us, and I'm an owner, and I take my part of the job that is not just my sales piece, but all the other pieces, the extra meetings, the times that we have to go to board. I actually live in Virginia, so when we have board meetings, I have to fly up to Massachusetts. All of that extra travel, I take that as any small business owner would. Those are the extra pieces of labor that you need to put in beyond. I'm sorry, I had another call come in.
Okay. Well, we may have just lost Mr. Taylor. So in the meantime, we're going to talk about what a worker cooperative is. A cooperative is any business that you can think of. Any business that you can think of could be in the form of a co-op. It's just the ownership difference. So in a worker co-op, the employees own it. And for Equal Exchange, we had Mr. Rodney North on 2 weeks ago, and we had Beth Ann Casperson on last week. And Rodney North talked to us about a double co-op, and that was that the Equal Exchange buys their products from farmer cooperatives, and they are a worker-owned cooperative. In this worker-owned cooperative, the employees own it. There's 150 employees, and out of that 150 employees, 117 of them are owners. And Rodney, LJ, and Beth Ann are all owners in this cooperative. And so what Mr. Taylor was talking to us about before we got disconnected, and he's back on, I understand, but what he was talking about was that he works both a daytime job, is selling the products, and in the evening time is the governance, and there's a reward for the governance. And that reward looks like what, Mr. Taylor?
That reward looks like, our dividend checks that we get at the end of the year, the internal capital that I'm building in an organization that I'm an owner of. I view that work as any small business owner would. The guy who owns the hardware shop during the day doesn't punch a clock for 8 hours and think, okay, my job is over. Owning a business is more work than that. You think about it all the time, and whatever you have to put in, you put in to get that done.
Well, I have a property management company, and so you're exactly correct. It's not, it's 24/7, 365. It is whenever a customer calls or a banker calls or insurance agent or vendor, you're on the job. So, yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But in your case, you have 117 other owners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're doing the same thing. They are thinking about this all the time. And
yeah, I mean, that's the theory. And I have to say, I've been at Equal Exchange since 2003, and we take our ownership very seriously. Any person who becomes a business owner with us, who becomes a worker owner, is actually voted on by the rest of the worker owners. So a potential worker owner works for a year. We get to know them. We get to know their work. Their supervisor writes a recommendation for them. They have a worker owner mentor who writes a recommendation for them. We read those statements. We even have office hours where you can go in and discuss the candidate with the supervisor and the mentor. And then we vote. And we take those votes very seriously because it's not just, okay, they're functional at their job. It's the serious question of, do I want to own a business with this person? And you have to make that decision, pretty regularly.
Mr. Roddy North talked about that a bit. And one of the things that he said that you all have embedded in your policies is when you do your dividend, you go ahead on and put enough money aside for the 150 people so that the 117 that are there, would not sort of like say, we're not going to let anybody else in because we don't want to share this portion. So you take out the money for everybody, although you don't give it to them, you keep it in capital. Yep. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I think we call that our internal capital account. And the great part about not only building that capital is it's an investment in not only what's going on with our organization currently, but what's going on with our organization in the future. I think we do it in our personal lives. We hopefully do it in our professional lives if we're business owners. You can't just take whatever you see today and think, I just need to make it through today. You want to build capital and the ability to insulate yourself for the future as much as you can. The really beautiful thing that I think, is a sort of elegant decision by the worker owners. Not only do we have these internal capital accounts, but we went ahead and decided to then take those capital accounts and invest them in stock at Equal Exchange as well, right? So those internal capital accounts are actually working capital for Equal Exchange for them to go out and make the purchases that they need to make on the green bean market, or if we're going to, buy a new building or invest in our roasting equipment. That's capital that is active. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, we get the same return on our investment that people who do buy our preferred stock get as well. So in a lot of ways, we're doubling down on what we do because we really do believe in the work that we're doing and the change that we're making out in the world.
And that's I really like Equal Exchange. I love this co-op model, but as I have learned about what you all do, I find that, and you may accept this or not, but I find you're doing God's work. You, in your fair trade, you're working for the small farmer, those that have the least amount of things around the world, and you give them a fair price for their products, and you help them provide better products and better quality products. That's what Beth Ann talked to us about. So in the Congo, you're doing all kinds of different things to help the people in the Congo. And I want to get this commercial out real quick, which normally I've waited to the end, and we almost don't get it out. But you could buy products from Equal Exchange by going to shop.equalexchange.coop. That's shop.equalexchange.coop. VOAKEXCHANGE.COOP. And if you put VOAKES, my name, my first initial and last name, in the promo section, you'll get a 10% off. And this is one time. And it can't be combined with any other offer. It cannot be combined, used with a wholesale. And it expires on January 31st. So you can go in on Equal Exchange. And what you'll be doing, particularly if you buy the Congo coffee, which I bought. I don't drink coffee, so I gave it to my sister. And Rodney, LJ, what you need to know is yesterday she was trying to go online, and I've got to help her because she went online, but she didn't see the Congo coffee because she said she loved it. She loved the way it smelled, and she loved the way she tasted. She had a grinder, and she went right away and came back and said she really loves this, and she wants to buy some more.
That's fantastic.
I also found, for those out there, that I bought some cashews, which the only problem, they were so good, I ate them in 24 hours, a pound of cashews. I did share some of the chocolate mints. I really like those. And I found out, LJ, that I already had some of your green tea already in my cupboard. So I bought some other teas, and I like your product. I like the price. And you can help smaller farmers and folks in the Congo. The other thing I bought, which I'm very pleased with, I was planning on giving it away, but I think I've got to buy some more. I bought the Panzi, Panzi bag, and that was $29. And you want to tell people out there what that's about and why you're doing that?
Well, I can tell you, I want to go back just for a quick second to something you said earlier about doing God's work. I appreciate you saying that. I speak Christianese myself, so you didn't push anything on me that I didn't already feel in my heart. But one of the things that I believe is that we're all challenged with taking what our talents are and using them to the best of our abilities. And I'm a sales animal at heart.
Okay.
I love to go out and find the new account and to find the new sales avenue and to challenge the market and to try to make change out there. And I've done that for other companies.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always sort of, I don't want to call it a piece missing because you're still exercising your talent, but there is a piece missing. When I know that every new account I get is one more pound of coffee that we can buy from a small-scale farmer in Peru or in the Congo or, in Mexico, that lets me know that my work, my talents are being exercised in a way that are helping people around the world. And that's the highest level that I think anyone can achieve when they're doing their work, is can you make change for people? And, that's part of why I will invest continually with my energy, with my dollars, with my time to this organization, because I do feel like we are actually affecting change in the world. And I appreciate you for highlighting just that part in speaking to us about all the different things that we're doing out there.
That's a great place to take a break. So we have to take a break. You're making change in the world, and that's what Eco Exchange. And by the way, right before we take a break, I am also a salesman for Eco Exchange. I don't make any money out of it, but I really enjoy what you all do. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
1450 WOL.
Welcome back, everybody. WOL has it that information is power, and the National Cooperative Bank is bringing you this program called Everything Cooperative to give you the information that you can perhaps go out and start your own co-op, a worker co-op. I didn't talk to you about consumer co-ops. That's when people use the products and services like a housing co-op, and that's how I learned about cooperatives and managing them, and that's how I became passionate and loving this business model over and above the capitalistic model, because in the capitalistic model, when money are made, it's normally made for the investor, and that investor may be in a different city, a different country, anywhere away from. And where it is worker co-op, what Mr. Taylor has already told us about, when there are dividends, it's given back to the employees. So that's fascinating and I think wonderful, so that everyday people can build wealth. and everyday people learn how to work together and how to work with government agencies and so forth. So they build social wealth. They build all capital. It's fascinating. And Mr. Taylor, let's go back to talk about what you do. You said sales, and you get a bigger bang out of it because you're using your talent, skills, monies, and so forth to help change.
Yeah. So, you were talking about the pansy bag, right?
Yes.
It's a gorgeous bag that you can see. It's right there on our website. If you go to the shop.equalexchange.coop website and put pansy bag in the search, you'll see this bag. It's a direct result of our Congo Coffee project that we did with the Pansy Foundation. And this Pansy Foundation, I'm sure Beth Ann talked about it, but what it really does is it tries to, I think at its core, is show that in hopeless situations there's care, and somebody cares, right? And we chose to partner with Pansy. They have the Pansy Hospital, which is out in the Congo, and basically they're treating women through life-saving treatments, counseling, aftercare programs for over 2,000 survivors of sexual violence that happen each year in the DR. And we're trying to provide that support, not necessarily just through funds or through donations, but through partnering with initiatives that allow people to take their money and vote, right? People can go out and you can go to the store and you can buy any coffee. And the thing that I always challenge consumers to do is to understand that each dollar they have in their pocket is a vote. You have a vote for what kind of system you want to invest in. And buying Congo coffee or buying a Pansy bag allows the Pansy Hospital to go out and continue to treat these women who are suffering all kinds of atrocities each year in the Congo, and allows them to understand that there are people out there who are investing in something that will benefit them and try to make their lives better. And, that's I keep going back to it, but I just can't imagine a higher capacity for an everyday job than being able to affect change in that way.
So you like what you do?
I love what I do.
Okay.
And, my background, I've been in coffee now for over 2 decades. I started with Starbucks. And, you were talking about some of the nuances between giving I call it sweat credit, but giving your sweat credit to an organization where you're paying off investors, or giving your sweat credit in paying off, in essence, yourself as a small business owner. And that's what
the other employees.
Exactly. That's what worker owners are. We're paying off ourselves through our sweat credit. But as I grew, as a young man, as I started to grow and do some thinking, it was a challenge to me to think about putting that sweat credit towards living out the dreams and ideas of investors or executives only, right? And a lot of people talk about a democratic workplace, and they have these visions of us all sitting around and making all kinds of decisions together, right? But here we are at this big table. It's 117 of us, and we're all making decisions. Should LJ go to Virginia? Well, that wasn't a decision that we all sat down and made, right? It's not that cut and dry. We have very specific things in our governance that become part of our democratic process. But even those pieces give you an investment in the largest decisions of an organization, and that is what ownership is about. It's not about each individual decision. It's about the bigger sort of decisions that are on a macro level above your organization. And I know that we're supposed to – I get caught up because I love my job so much. I know one of the things that we really wanted to talk about was the workings of the governance of Equal Exchange, and I'd love to tell you about it because I think that it's elegant and it's one of the sources of pride for me. Telling people that I work at Equal Exchange is really letting them understand how we govern our organization.
Before we do that, I want to make sure everybody understands this pansy bag. It's $29. Oh. It's white, green, and black. It's very sturdy. I've used it now to go to the gym, to put my things in to go to the gym. I've also used it when I went shopping. It's a fascinating bag. It's a little bit feminine, but I don't care. It causes me to have conversations, and so I can tell people what it's about. So I said, you've got a salesman here, LJ, and I'm not one. The payment, I said earlier, I don't get paid for it, but I do. The payment is in the fact that knowing that I'm helping some women in the Congo who create these bags, who get paid for these bags, and you all are selling them, and then they're learning how to do a business, and so that they can. Well, let me say it this way to you. Dame Pauline Green, who's the president of the International Cooperative Alliance, said that cooperatives help people to get out of poverty with dignity. And that's what I see these ladies are being able to do. They've had sexual assault, they've gone to the hospital, and now you guys with the Pansy Foundation are giving them a way of using their time and talents to make something, and they can get money and then take care of their family. So to me, it makes all the sense. And the payment is knowing that I'm doing something great. Wonderful for another human being when I bought this bag. The other thing I want to say to you, and I know I got to interview you, but this was when I bought was $79, and I put in the code VOAKS, and I got a 10% discount. It came to $71, and that was the first time in my life that I felt good about spending my money, because I knew that I didn't know how good the products were going to be, but they turned out to be excellent. Everything that I bought, I really liked. It was at a price competitive, and in some cases, compared to Starbucks, is what my sister told me about the coffee at $12 for the Congo coffee. It's much cheaper, and she found it as good as. So the products are good, the price is right, and I'm able to help people.
That's right.
Wow, if you're using these products, the chocolate I did. The chocolate, I did share it with 3 people, but one piece each. Of the 20 pieces, over about a week and a half, I took a piece at a time and really enjoyed it. So you can go on shop.equalexchange.coop. You put in VOAKS in the promotion code, you get a 10% off one time. Can't combine it with any other offer. This is not good for wholesale customers, and it expires on January 31st. I encourage you to go in. They have scarves, which I'm going to go back and make another order. I won't get the 10% discount, but I'm okay with that because I've got some Christmas shopping I want to do with the scarves, and you got some necklaces and stuff that different people, I think in Peru or Venezuela, different places, make these different products. And so I'll be buying some more. So with that, let's go to governance. What's the everyday? What are the kinds of things that's on your plate right now that you have to make decisions on?
So I can tell you. First, I sort of dabbled in it, but I want to go back and be very specific here. By our governance model, we have, and let me first say, we have something called the GLASS model, which was this will tell you just the truest part of our governance. A few years ago, we had a governance model that was, I would say, in the kindest sense of the word, was causing some turmoil for us in how it was operating. And we had a group of worker owners who got together and said that we needed to make a change. And one of the changes that worker owners at Equal Exchange can do is to say, we would like to change our governance model. So the 117 of us, if rallied, can decide to change our governance at any time. And we made that decision, and we had basically what amounted to an open audition for people to bring proposals for a new governance model.
Listen, we've got to take another break. This is a great place. When we come back, we'll talk about the audition for proposals and what you ended up with. If anyone out there has a question for me or LJ, please call in at 1-800-450-7876. And we're talking about worker cooperatives and how you can build wealth, both social capital and financial capital. We'll be right back.
News updates on the web at WOLDCnews.com.
Everything Cooperative. This is Vernon Oaks, and we have LJ Taylor, the board president and the salesperson at Equal Exchange, on the line with us this morning, talking about worker co-ops and how they govern, how they function from a day-to-day basis. And right before the break, he was telling us about the workers came together and decided that they wanted to change the governance. And I would like for you to think, what would that look like at Bank of America or Wells Fargo or Ford Motor Company or IBM, that the workers would come together and say, look, we want to change the governance of these companies. I doubt it very seriously if they get very far. But at Equal Exchange, workers decided they wanted to change the governance because the governance they were under was causing turmoil, and they figured they wanted to have a better governance structure. So what happened?
So basically we had an open audition, and we had 3 worker owners actually created some pretty interesting and elegant-looking co-op governance models. They gave a presentation to the entire worker owner body, and then we voted. And we ended up voting on the glass model, which is what we have adopted and are now living under. I was just thinking about it as we were at the commercial break and thinking about what exactly I want to get across about this model, because I could probably spend 4 hours talking about it, and I know we don't have that. Okay. But the first thing I want to say is just to give you a view of our checks and balances, okay? So in the glass model, we have our 117 worker owners. Those worker owners elect the board of directors. So in other organizations, those people are appointed or hired, or sometimes the executives handpick them. 6, but not at Equal Exchange. 6 of those board members, we have a board of 9. 6 of those board members are worker owners. So we elect 6 people from amongst our 117. They're elected to 3-year terms, and we elect 2 of them each year. So you have a rotating out of 2. In addition to those, we also have 3 board members that are elected from outside of the organization. We really felt like that was important. You have different things, different pieces of talent, or different views of the market, or different views, possibly from our small farmers, our investors, our customers, consumers, whatever other stakeholder we might feel it's important to have their voice at that time, we can elect them to our board of directors as well. So we elect 1 a year, and they also have 3-year terms. So we have 1 that's elected there. So each year we're electing 2 inside directors and 1 outside. That board of directors then supervises, in a sense, our executives. So they have the power to hire and fire executives, and really to be sort of the defenders of our governance in a way.
Okay, can I get you to hold on a minute? We have a Sean on the line with a comment or question. Sean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just calling. I mean, everything you're saying sounds fascinating. How do you find out more information about starting a co-op? Is there a program? Or, I really believe that, what you're doing and what you're talking about is really key to some of the things that we're struggling with in terms of high unemployment and low job scalability in a lot of our inner city areas. And I'm very interested in doing that, but I'm not very familiar at all with the co-op model and how you get started with it. I have different business ideas, but I've always thought along the traditional capital model. But, I'm very interested in investing my capital and helping kind of develop it. So is there a place you can take a class, or how would you go about learning how to do or start or even get involved with the Equal Exchange? I'm just curious.
Well, I'll let Mr. Taylor answer in a minute, but there's one place you can go real quickly, and that is to the National Association. What's it? I'm sorry. I'm looking for an NCBA, National Cooperative Business Association. And that's just ncba.coop. And they will have some places in there to talk about starting co-ops and how you can get it. And then, Sean, there's a gentleman that I've talked to here in this area for worker co-op, because I'm looking at taking my business and making it into a worker co-op. And his name is Jim Johnson, but I don't remember which organization he was with, or I would give you his contact information. And do you have anything to add to that, LJ?
No, I was actually going to say the exact same thing. The NCBA would be where I would direct people. You're going to find lots of resources on not only starting a co-op, but how to get going, sources to look for funding, tons of examples of co-ops around the world and how their structure and what they do, give you actual definitions for some of the words that we're throwing around here on this program. But I would say that would be the best resource that I would point people to as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I enjoy the program. Very informational.
Sean, thank you very much. And I got to say to you, if you can take one of those ideas and start a co-op, then this program is well worth it. I mean, the time that we're putting in it. And National Cooperative Bank is another place to go to, by the way, ncb.coop. So you can go to ncba.coop or ncb.coop. And right now, like NCB, Rodney North had told me, they have a $2.5 million line of credit with NCB right now. Is that right?
Yep.
To help finance their cash flow. So there's a couple places you can go to, and good luck.
Yeah, and I would say, I think the biggest thing, and I'm glad that you're out doing it, is just to get people to start asking questions. If people can start asking questions, the resources are out there. But if you're going to go into a bank and just say, I want to start a business, they're never going to suggest co-op to you. You have to start with the question and the intention to set out for co-ops. And then once you make that step and start to look for those resources, they'll be there. I actually am also formerly I was also a worker owner at Equal Exchange, but at the time I was also the board chair for the Co-op Fund in New England, which is one of the oldest co-op lending funds in the United States. And the interesting thing about that is that with that organization, we had people and program directors who were out looking for people who wanted to start a co-op. We were looking for people who wanted to do that, to be able to provide them with resources and things to help them get going. So the resources are out there. You just have to make that first step to decide that that's what you want to do.
And the other thing I found in the co-op world is that if you were to go to NCBA's annual meeting or some other annual meeting, you find that the people there will give you information. They want folks to get the knowledge that they need to have a successful business, a successful cooperative business. And that's the fifth principle of cooperative. There are 7 principles, and the fifth one is education, training, and information. And so people really, 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 they don't hold back data. And that's, again, why we're on this program, to give you the information you need. As WL says, information is power. And a gentleman by the name of Papa Sin from Senegal on the program said, if you take that information and put action to it, then that's where the power comes. And this is some of the things that we're trying to tell you. Okay, so ask the questions, but I want to get back to this glass model.
All right.
Okay.
So we were talking about how the board then is the defender and sort of holder of the governance and making sure that we're operating with that, and also supervising. I call it supervising, but in a way it's more support and working with our executives. And then our executives are the management of the organization. So they're running our organization on a day-to-day basis. So as you can see, we have those 3 I don't want to call them power centers, but there are three power centers, really. There's the worker owners who elect the board, and basically they're supervising the board, right? Mm-hmm. Because they have the power to elect. That board is then working with the executives and, in a way, supervising them with the power to hire and fire. And then the executives are managing our organization. And our organization, the work that's done there is done by our worker owners, right? Like, so you have a very interesting triangle that has a very elegant check and balance to it that I really enjoy.
Well, this triangle is upside down. You got the point at the bottom, and the workers, the larger part, which is normally the base of a triangle, they are the 117 who elect 9 board members who supervise, manage, hold the staff accountable, and that could be, I don't know, your chief operating officer, chief financial officer. You got 4 or 5 people in those positions?
Well, when we say our executives, we're talking about our co-executive directors. We have 2 executive directors, Rink Dickinson and Rob Evans. And interestingly enough, Rink Dickinson is actually one of the founders at Equal Exchange. So he's been there from the beginning, from the very beginning.
And that was 86 or 83? What was it?
86.
86.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, you were saying a triangle, and very interestingly, our glass model actually sees it as 2 triangles. One with the very traditional triangle, as you're talking about, where everything flows up, which sort of looks like a traditional organization, and then an upside down triangle on top of that, which is our governance. So you're right. It does. We have both of those elements in our everyday working life, and I think one of the biggest challenges, but it's one of the things that I enjoy, is that you have to wear both hats. You have to wear the hat. There are times when I go into one meeting and I'm a salesperson, and things are happening and decisions are being made, and I'm sort of observing. And then I might go into the next room 1 hour later and be running a board meeting where, I'm facilitating approving the annual budget for Equal Exchange, right? And being able to switch back and forth between those two jobs is, gets right back to what we were talking about. Being able to have that, in a sense, the day and nighttime job. They don't happen just at day and night. They might happen and switch from hour to hour.
So when you're in a meeting as a salesperson, you may be taking directives from the co-directors.
It has happened.
And then when you put your chair of the board in the meeting, you may be giving the co-directors directives.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And I can tell you, in my 11-year career, I have done just that. Gone from one room and had directives sent to me that we discussed, and then go into the next room and run a meeting where we're making hard decisions and having to support and guide our whole organization, and that's amazing. It's an amazing opportunity for me. Going back to Sean's comment about wanting to start a co-op. When I started at Equal Exchange in 2003, I like to tell people, I own 2 things: a beater car and 1/100th of this, organization. We didn't have 117 at the time, and that is literally what I owned in my life. That was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You own 1%, 1/100. You owned 1% at the time, and you had a beat up car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I had a 1997 Altima, and those are the 2 things I've owned. And now I'm a father of 3 and married and own a home in Virginia, and those type of things. People often believe that you have to make a choice, that you either have to go out and pursue financial success, or you have to go out and do good work, and that they're mutually exclusive. But the model to be able to invest in yourself and still do amazing work when you're joined with others who want to do that, even if you've only got a little bit, even if you've only got a small amount to invest. The power of everybody doing it together not only changes your scale,
we got to take
but
a break.
Also changes the way you look at it.
We'll take a break and come right back to financial success and good works. We'll be right back.
News updates on the web at WOLDCnews.com.
Information is power. This is Vernon Oaks with Everything Cooperative this Thursday morning, talking to L.J. Taylor from Equal Exchange. The National Co-op Bank is sponsoring this program. NCB provides comprehensive banking services to cooperatives and other member-owned organizations throughout the country. What makes NCB unique is that the bank was created to address the financial needs of an underserved market niche. People who join together cooperatively to meet personal, social, or business needs, especially in low-income communities. They have a really hard job to do to try to provide loans to folks in low-income communities and stay afloat. But they've done a very, very, very good job since the 1980s also. And they've loaned you guys some money several times, I understand.
The 80s were a good time.
Okay. I thought this glass model, you were going to talk about transparency, that in your glass model, people get to, 117 get to understand and know what is all going on in the business. Is that a part of it?
That is 100% part of it. And, there are two things that I would be remiss if I did make sure I pointed out. I want to make sure that we talk about that transparency, but I also want to, I sort of dance back and forth about the kind of decisions that worker owners get to make. I want to make sure that I'm clear about those. But to get to that transparency piece, I'll give you another vision. You were talking about how if worker owners or workers at Wells Fargo decided they didn't like the governance or the bylaws at Wells Fargo, what could they do about it? You can't imagine them doing anything, right?
Right.
Well, at Equal Exchange, we can. And to give you a view, I'm going to give you another example. What would it be like if the board meeting of Wells Fargo was open to everybody, right? So our worker owners sit in on our board meeting. They don't get to participate, but they're there when we are having crucial conversations, talking about things like budgets, talking about future strategies for our organization, talking about directions, giving reports on how our product lines are doing, what our finances look like. All of those documents and all of those discussions are open to all of our worker owners. So there is no piece of that happens that they don't have a view of. And then on the flip side, trust me, I'm the board chair. On the flip side, have conversations with me about, right?
Mm-hmm. So any employee can talk to you about any of this stuff?
Absolutely. And we encourage it. We do things like we have an open lunch with board members before the board meeting so that worker owners can express their views on the topics. The agendas go out ahead of time. The documents go out ahead of time so that they can read and give their feedback to us before we go into that meeting. And not only do they do that, but oftentimes we have lots of fruitful conversations afterwards with reactions and how people are viewing the topics that we talked about. Here's another great example. We just went through the annual review for our executives. So imagine this. You're at Bank of America, and it's that time of year, and it's time to give feedback on the performance of the executives. Our whole organization is entitled to contribute comments and feedback, and then the board delivers that information to our executives, right? That is, I can't think of a higher level of transparency than that kind of feedback and that kind of openness.
Now, how many people out of 117, you got 6 that's on the board, how many people come to a board meeting?
Well, it will vary, depending on topic. There are juicier topics. When we're talking about compensation philosophy, you'll have a packed room. When we're talking about, let's say, future strategies of product lines, you'll have a full room. From time to time, there's 6 of us. I could say that there'd be another, 20 or 30 in the room, and another 5 or 10. We put them on video conference as well because we have offices across the country. So you'll have another, 10 to 30 either tuning in by phone or by video. It's very active, and even if they're not there present in the room, we still have people who send emails and comment and, even have personal conversations with board members as well.
Now, you got 117 members and 150 employees. If my math right, that's 33 people that are not members yet, but they're employees. Can they also come to the board meeting?
They can. They can come in and sit. I think it's a crucial piece of our organization that people who are not yet worker owners can come and sit in on our worker owner meetings. They can come and sit in on the board. Look, I've talked about the piece as a worker owner where I'm trying to say, do I want this person to own a business with me? I feel like it's just as important that any potential worker owner decide if they want to own a business with us, right? Like they might sit in on those meetings and decide these people are crazy. I don't know why they make decisions this way. I'll go find another cooperative. But it is important that people get that view of our governance live and working as it's going.
Do you have in your evaluation of those 33 people that if they did not come to any of those meetings, they wouldn't get voted in?
That is part of the evaluations piece. We actually have 2 different organizations two different committees that work with them. We have an education committee that has a curriculum that all potential worker owners go through, where they're learning different pieces about co-ops, different pieces about our business, different pieces about our governance. And then we also have something called the Leadership and Training Committee, which puts out different programs in order to not only help potential worker owners, but help worker owners that are current continue to work on their leadership and skills. And I think that's just as important. I alluded to working on the board of the Co-op Fund in New England. Part of the reason I did that is because I want to retire a worker owner at Equal Exchange. And I know if I'm going to be there for 30 years, the skills I have right now aren't going to be enough. I need to continue to go out and educate myself and to learn more and more and more so that I can contribute to Equal Exchange. When I'm there for 20 years, I'm going to be a senior person. They're going to need to rely on me or else our organization is going to fall down. So, it's our responsibility to keep pushing ourselves and continue to learn and challenge.
Fascinating, sir. Fascinating. One of the things I've learned in managing housing co-ops is that in order to have a successful cooperative, they've got to have 2 things, and that's good governance, which you've been talking about, and good management, which you talked about, the 2 co-managers. So, and I have defined good as they have to have knowledge, which you were just talking about, which made me think about this. You have to have knowledge and you have to have integrity, in both in governance and in management. So how would you rate Equal Exchange in integrity? Living up to its bylaws and policies and procedures and treating everybody fairly. Yeah.
Well, I would say on an integrity level of a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give us a 15. Okay. In general, I try to be pretty modest, but this is one of the places where I have to toot a horn here. And I would say, we're focusing on governance now, but I'm going to go all the way back to even our products. We have a name that's synonymous with fair trade. There is not a single person who could point to a place where Equal Exchange isn't living out its mission of helping small-scale farmers all over the world in everything that we do. So starting from that ground of just saying we're a business that stands on integrity, let's go into the governance, our bylaws. Our bylaws are open. Every piece of rule or structure that we have is open and transparent. And when you have 117 worker owners who have signed up and invested not only with their time and energy, but financially, I have quite a stake in Equal Exchange now after 11 years. I'm going to make sure that we do things by the book. And the transparency that we talked about earlier, where we can everything is open and we can see it all means that we have 117 watchdogs, in a sense, that are always looking out to make sure that we're on the course to do what we set out to do. Mm-hmm. In addition, we have a governance committee that is a board-appointed committee that their entire job is to make sure that the dealings that we do at all pieces in our governance are by the bylaws. Our chair of that committee, Hillary, is outstanding in making sure that she reviews each decision that we have and that she goes back and checks it against our bylaws. And we have a saying, if we do it wrong, we're going to go back and fix it. We're not in the business of saying, well, we did it wrong, but that's okay. We go back and fix it and make sure that it is by our bylaws. And if we feel like those bylaws don't serve us anymore, the worker owners can change them. That's one of the powers that the worker owners have.
Well, what I like, and we only have about another minute here, what I like is to say to people, if you make choices, you make decisions based on your bylaws and your rules and policies, and if you find out that you want to make a different decision, then you change your bylaws and policies. But you have to have integrity in them. Anybody want to make an order, go to shop.equalexchange.coop. You put VOAKES in, VOAKES, and you'll get a 10% discount one time. Can't combine it with any other offer. It's valid until January 31st, and it's not valid for wholesale customers. You have any last comment that you want to make?
Yeah, I would just say, last comment I would like to make is just there is extreme power in cooperatives. There is ownership and responsibility. There is capital building. But more than any of that, the power to come together as opposed to feeling like you're competing and fighting allows people to really do dynamic work. And when people can join together to understand that the power of 117 can equal the power of, one really enlightened, executive at some other organization is amazing. And I continue to invest in that, and I hope that this program has helped other people to challenge themselves to think about investing in those type of businesses themselves.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll see you next Thursday.
1450 W.